Are you thinking of buying a home in the Atlanta, Georgia area in 2022? Well, if so, there are three main things you have to get right to avoid complete disaster. And I'm going to tell you exactly what those things are. Coming up right now. Hey everyone, welcome back to Living in Atlanta. This YouTube channel is all about helping you get to know the Atlanta, Georgia, and surrounding areas, whether you're relocating here from out of state, whether you're in state, outside of Atlanta looking to buy or sell. I talk about all things Atlanta, and I throw some real estate related topics in there as well. My name is Mark Brenner. I'm team leader of the Living in Atlanta team here in Atlanta, Georgia. And if you have any real estate needs at all, we would love to hear from you. You can book a Zoom call with us. You can give me a call, shoot me an email. All the contact information is in the description below. We would love to hear from you. This is why we make this channel. This is why I make these videos, is to connect with you. So we can help you with anything you need to do in and around the Atlanta, Georgia area related to real estate. So book your call today. All right, let's get right into it. So you're thinking of buying a home in the Atlanta, Georgia area in 2022. What do you need to know, right? You don't want it to be a stressful process. You don't want to buy a money pit, and you want to buy the home of your dreams in the best neighborhood for you and your family. So what can you do to prepare to get your ducks in a row to make sure this is a smooth, stress-free, effective process? Well, I'm going to make this really simple. I'm not going to give you a list of 20 things. There are three main components, three things on your checklist that you have to get right so that you can have a smooth, stress-free process where you're in your home, you've got all the boxes checked that you wanted, and you're just loving life in Atlanta. So I'm going to try to make this right to the point and just provide as much value as possible. So let's get right into my top three things that you need to know if you're buying a home in Atlanta, Georgia in 2022. All right, number one on the list, it's shameless self-promotion time, unfortunately, but the reality is the real estate agent will make or break your entire experience. Now, hear me out. Okay, you don't have to hire me. Maybe you're buying somewhere else in another state. The real estate agent is super important, okay? And I'm going to explain why. It's really interesting talking about being a real estate agent and what they provide. Honestly, people really don't have any idea what real estate agents do, if I'm honest, okay? And the reason I say that is because you have people selling their home themselves or trying to. You have people, trying to use Zillow or Opendoor. You have people hiring like Redfin agents. Spoiler alert, I would not do that. If you were to ask people like, what does a real estate agent do? I think they'd probably tell you they open doors for you, right? Maybe they put offers together for you. Maybe they'll, give you a referral for a handyman. I don't really think agents do a good job in explaining the value that they're bringing. But here's the reality about hiring a great agent and why it's so important, okay? At the end of the day, the value that a great agent is going to provide is counsel, is wisdom based on experience. Okay, a lot of people don't know this, but real estate agents, at least in Georgia, have a fiduciary responsibility, meaning that they can't place any other motivator above your financial well-being in a real estate transaction. Very similar to a wealth manager or maybe a CPA. Okay, we have a fiduciary responsibility, and really the agents who provide the most value, it's not opening the doors. Okay, anyone can open a door for you. Anyone can even write out a contract for you. Anyone can arrange an inspection for you. Experience is what an agent is going to provide you, because listen, the reality is 9 times out of 10 in a real estate transaction, it goes pretty smooth. Maybe there's a little bump in the road, but crazy things can happen. I mean, really crazy things can happen. And when you get burned in a real estate transaction, it can be a really bad burn. And the way you avoid those bad burns is with a real estate agent who's been in a similar situation before. So real quick, what are the most common ways that you can get burned in a real estate transaction? Well, the number one way is probably time. Okay, especially in a very hot market. it can feel good to put in an offer, but if you're not putting in the right offer, you're completely wasting your time. I mean, when I go to list a home, you would be amazed. 90% of the offers I receive, it's great to receive 20, 30 offers. 90% of them I would never consider, okay? And there's a lot of reasons for that. But in this type of market, when you have like, let's say a 45-day close, I'm not going to consider that. That's crazy. I have another offer where they can close in 15 days. Okay. When I look at an offer where you need 21 days to get an appraisal back, that's not going to work for my sellers. So listen, when you hire a real estate agent, the truth is the barrier to entry to get your real estate license is very low. Okay. So it's great that you have a cousin or a nephew or an uncle who has their real estate license. If they're not closing multiple deals, they have no experience and they are not going to know what to do in a lot of situations that they haven't seen before. They're probably not going to know how to put an effective offer for you. So you're going to be spinning your wheels and you're going to turn a timeline that should take maybe 1 to 2 months into 6, 7, 8, 9 months, or it may just never happen. And that happens a lot, especially in competitive markets, especially with buyers. You just give up because you're spinning your wheels. And so again, talking about counsel, I explain to my clients what makes a great offer. I'm just going to be very honest with you. I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do. I'm going to tell you when you have no chance of getting something under contract. So your time is in jeopardy with the wrong agent. Number 2, earnest money. When you get something under contract, you put down 1% of the purchase price in escrow in order to show the seller that you're going to do what you say you're going to do. Well, there are timelines associated with that earnest money, okay? Mainly financing, appraisal, and due diligence, okay? And if you mess up any of these timelines, you will not get your earnest money back. Okay, and that might not be a huge deal if you have $1,000 earnest money on a $200,000 house, but what happens when you're purchasing a $700,000 house and your earnest money is $10,000? If your agent is not on the lender to get the appraisal back within your contingency time frame, and the appraisal comes in drastically low, you're screwed. Okay, you have no recourse, right? Because the seller's not going to reduce the price, and your only option is to make up the difference at close or to terminate and lose your earnest money. So again, these are not common scenarios, especially with the earnest money, but it does happen. I have seen it happen. I've seen people, not my clients, I have seen people lose a lot of money, a lot of earnest money, because their agent did not prepare them. The agent did not stay on all the parties involved. That's a lot of what an agent does. They stay on the parties involved to make sure everyone is adhering to the timelines, and they let the buyer or whoever their client is know, hey, you've got to do X or Y will happen. All right, so time, earnest money, and then I have money pit. But honestly, the money pit scenario, now that I'm thinking about it, is way less common than the missed opportunity scenario. Let me explain. Okay, yes, of course, if you get an inspection report back and the foundation is cracked and the roof is 35 years old, the electrical and plumbing are outdated, like that's a money pit, run away, obviously. Here's a really common scenario I see, especially with first-time home buyers who've never seen an inspection report before. You pay a few $100s to get an inspection report, you get a big, 45 plus page report, and it's got a lot of stuff on it, okay? They point out, an uneven walkway. They point out an uneven post. They point out an uncovered outlet or an outlet that's not GFCI. They point out every nick and ding and crack and everything that they can find wrong with the home. And a lot of buyers get freaked out. They say, oh my God, this home's a money pit. I want to terminate, or they need to fix everything on this list. And I see a lot of missed opportunities. So if your agent is not explaining, look, we're worried about roof, we're worried about foundation, we're worried about electrical, plumbing, and HVAC. We're worried about the dollar value associated with the needed repair. I don't care if the report is 70 pages long. If the total cost of the repairs is less than a few $1,000s, that is not a reason to walk away from a deal. So this is another way you can get burned by using the wrong agent. It's missed opportunity. So I don't want to talk about this too much longer. I don't want this whole video to be about real estate agents, but the reality is the real estate agent will play the single biggest role in how long and stressful and how effective or ineffective the entire buying process can be. let's just come up with a couple examples real quick before we move on, okay? You reach out to a real estate agent and you tell them, hey, I got pre-approved with Rocket Mortgage. I'm ready to go. They say, great. Give me your approval letter. We'll start putting in offers. You're never going to buy a home. You are never going to get an offer accepted in this market using Rocket Mortgage, okay? They take 45 days to close. They don't answer your calls on Sunday. They take a long time to get appraisals back. They're not going to advocate for you. And they're probably going to switch up the rate and the fees at the last second on you, okay? So if you're an unexperienced agent, you're not going to know that. I pretty much insist clients work, they don't have to work with my lenders, but they have to work with a lender who can give them a real chance to win in this market. So that's one example. Another example I just gave, we got an inspection report back. I want to terminate. This house is a dud. It's too many repairs needed. Meanwhile, you look at the list, there's not a single electrical, plumbing, foundation, roof, or HVAC issue on it, right? The entire cost of the repairs could be done by a handyman over the weekend and cost less than $2,000. That's a very silly thing to terminate over, but you don't have experience, you know, you're gonna say, okay, we'll write up the termination. So hire the right agent. And listen, I don't care what brokerage you're at. It really does not matter what brokerage the agent is at. It doesn't matter at all. The only exception there I would say is Redfin agents. And here's why I made that comment about Redfin agents. Redfin agents are paid a salary, right? Because, and that's not the end of the world, but you've got to think, if you are a real estate agent and you could not succeed in a level where you're an independent contractor and you're making enough money to now where you need to go get a salary, it doesn't matter how many homes you help someone buy or sell, you get a salary. That to me is a bit of a red flag. Now there probably are very good Redfin agents, but that has not been my experience. So listen, again, I don't care what brokerage you use. Don't use your uncle or grandmother who got their real estate license 30 years ago and kept it active. Please work with someone who's got some real experience. They need to have helped someone buy or sell at least 10 homes this year, preferably more, right? Yeah, and then you get into the big teams. I don't want to get too much into this, but the sweet spot is a solo agent or a very small team that does a lot of business in the area that you want to buy in. So hire the right agent. All right, number two, I'm sorry the first one was so long, but that is the meat and potatoes of this video. Number two is you have to have a backup plan, okay? Where does stress come into play in purchasing a home? It's in time crunch, okay? The stress comes in a time crunch. You can only manipulate the timeline so much. And a lot of people, especially for me, because they're relocating here from out of state, they got a job transfer, they just want to move because of the cost of living or whatever. There can often be time crunches, whether it's, you know, the lease is going to end or you need to sell your home by a certain amount of time. So here's what I'll say. Do everything in your power to create no time crunches. The way that you do that is you have a backup plan, okay? If you're moving here from out of state, or if you're in state, your lease is gonna be up in a few months and you need to buy a home, we'll probably make it happen, but you need to have a backup plan. Okay, you need to have a temporary living solution. You need to be prepared to rent month to month, stay with family, rent an Airbnb, sign a 6-month lease and know what the fee is to break it. It's up to you to find the solution, but if you're trying to purchase a home on a hard time frame, that's a recipe for disaster. You need a backup plan for your living situation, or for whatever other situation that you could possibly be involved in. I really try to prepare clients to where if this thing doesn't work out, or if it's extended past the time we thought it was going to take, you've got to have a backup plan. And this applies not just to, the home buying process overall, but also to like closing. Closing times move a lot. The closing date can move, the closing time can move. So like a microcosm of what I'm talking about is setting aside 1 hour on closing day to get the closing done. Things in real estate can be very fluid, okay? Lenders get delayed, attorneys get delayed with clearing title, agents can get delayed, sellers can get delayed. So you cannot go into this process expecting a hard and fast timeline. You need to create exit strategies and backup plans. The most stress-free scenarios I see are when people are not in a time crunch to move out of their place or to sell their home or to get out of where they are. So just keep that in mind. All right, the third and final thing that you need to know if you're buying a home in the Atlanta, Georgia area, or anywhere else for that matter, is getting a good deal in the right neighborhood. Now that sounds very generic. Let me explain, okay? People have all kinds of ideas of what buying a home is. And honestly, I think buying a home for a lot of people is extremely romanticized. And it makes sense. It's probably the largest purchase of your life. And if you've never purchased a home before, obviously you're going to be very excited to have your own place for you and your family. And so with that, romanticism can bring, ideas of what it has to be and how you're going to live there forever and all the things that it needs to have, right? Because this is your forever home. I'm not saying that's wrong. And I'm not saying, you can't fall in love with a home. But what I'm saying is it would benefit you greatly if you balanced it out and realized all homes are investment properties, okay? Again, this is one of the largest financial transactions of your life. And you're purchasing a piece of property, a piece of shelter, a piece of land. It's not an asset right away, but it will become an asset. You need to really balance out the romanticism of purchasing a home with the investment aspect of it. Okay, the reality is you might think it's your dream home, but statistically you are going to sell that home and move somewhere else within 5 to 7 years, maybe sooner. Now, if you're older, if you're going into retirement, yeah, it definitely could be your forever home. But statistically, for most of you out there, especially if you're a first-time home buyer, that you're going to be selling and moving in 5 to 7 years. Life changes, work changes, whatever. That just emphasizes the point that this needs to match maybe different criteria than you were anticipating. And this is actually a good thing because this should open up the possibilities for you. You don't have to be in that one neighborhood. You don't have to be in that one style of house with this one thing. Now, it is important to have non-negotiables, right? Maybe you need really good public schools. Maybe you need a certain amount of space. Maybe you need to have a certain level of safety. I totally support that. You need non-negotiables so that at the end of the day, you can make sure those boxes are checked and that you feel really good about your purchase. But there are a lot of great neighborhoods and there are a lot of great homes. And every time, anytime where my clients have lost out in a home they really wanted, I've told them, listen, something better is going to come down the pipeline. And it usually does. And I really do think things have a way of working out the way that they're supposed to. So in thinking about this being more of an investment property, like what are the implications of that? Well, number one, buy a house you can really afford, okay? Don't buy a house where the mortgage payment stresses you out. That's a recipe for disaster. God forbid you lose your job. How are you going to float the mortgage payment? Okay, I've said this in a previous video, but the way that I look at mortgage payments is if you were unemployed for, 3 months, could you get a similar job in your industry or maybe a slightly different industry where you're making $10,000 to $30,000 less and you can still make that mortgage payment? If that's the case, to me, that's real stability. That's how you avoid foreclosure, and that makes it a really good investment. Another thing to think about with it being more of an investment property is buying in an established neighborhood. Now, I work with a lot of investors. I love helping them buy in up-and-coming neighborhoods, but if you are a residential buyer, there's a difference between an up-and-coming neighborhood and a completely unestablished neighborhood. And you saw this back in the crash. People were buying in neighborhoods that had no amenities, had no reason for anyone being there other than the houses were cheap. You don't want to have the most expensive house in an unestablished neighborhood. And you don't want to buy new construction in the middle of a desert, right? You need to balance things out with, is it close to the city? Are people able to commute into the city if they have work here? What's the quality of the schools? What are the amenities? And this is things that a realtor should be able to help you out with, but you need to ask yourself some of these questions to look at this a little bit more like an investment property. So at the end of the day, if you're comfortable with the mortgage payment, if the home checks all your major boxes, if you're in a neighborhood that works for what you're looking for, you're gonna feel very good about your purchase. Rather than stretching yourself for your dream home, buying the biggest house on the block so that you can feel good about yourself, okay, take some of the romanticism out of buying a home. This is a financial investment, a very important, significant one, and you need to treat it that way. All right, so there you have it. I feel like I talked a lot in that one, but really only 3 things that you need to make sure you get right so that you can have a smooth, stress-free, effective real estate buying process. Number 1, you have to hire an agent with some real experience, please. Number 2, you have to have a backup plan. You cannot do this in a significant time crunch or any kind of hard timeline. And number 3, you have to realize this is at least partially an investment property. You have to balance out the romanticism of purchasing a home with some real financial factors like buying in a good neighborhood and buying something you can really afford. If you do all these 3 things, you are going to be sitting in your new home, having had a very stress-free process that seemed too easy, and you're going to realize all of the boxes are checked. All the things that I really wanted in a home have been satisfied by this process. I hope that is the case for you. I really hope this video provided you some value wherever you're at in your journey. Like I said, don't be a stranger. Reach out anytime. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.